because
oh, there we go. You got it.
yes, so Josh is getting ready to do his artist talk. Don will be here in just a second, so you can see him over there. It's weird, the camera's here, but so this is Joshua Cox, and
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Jason.
all right, and you can get started whenever you want.
Okay, well, hi, everybody. You can hear me okay? This is a new experience for me here. I'm Josh. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Dawn will be with us shortly. We're waiting on Grandma here to get to help us with the kids. It's kind of what the show's all about, so that does kind of make sense. So she'll be here in just a minute. I'm supposed to kind of stall for time until she gets here. She doesn't want to repeat anything I say, so that's the idea. So again, thank you for coming tonight. We are from Central Iowa, although I was raised in Central Illinois, just near Peoria there. I have a son who's going to be a senior in high school living in Jacksonville right now. And Dawn and I have two young girls, age 4 and 2, Mabel and Margot. And they are the lights of our life, absolutely, right? Absolute treasures, but also one of the reasons we haven't really done many shows lately. And the whole point of the show that you're at right now is kind of based around thinking about how to line up this life with those other lives. Dawn and I met in 2013. We've been married now almost 6 years. And when we met, we were both kind of professional artists in our own rights. I had just finished up with my MFA and was starting my professional career as an artist, as a gallerist. And Dawn had been making work for a long time, traveling all over the place. So we were kind of meeting and joining two artists' kind of worlds and artist lives together when we met. So we were, now I'm kind of waiting to see if she's going to make it down here, but I guess I'll go ahead and start talking so I don't make you all stand around looking at the wall or looking at me. This is a new experience for me too, so thank you for that. This is great. I really enjoyed it though. So Dawn and I both met. Our works independently were about looking for something, looking for that life we've always wanted, but we're kind of felt was out of our reach. My work was kind of based upon a divorce that I had gone through several years before, and kind of struggling and finding what it meant to be a family, looking for home in quotes, I guess, has always been my search. And never quite getting there, not quite knowing what that was supposed to look like. Trying to remember what my life was like when I was a child, and memories of my childhood that had informed my current life, kind of my current expectations. What should life be like now that I'm a quote unquote adult with a kid, and what should that life be like? Remembering what my life was like as a kid and using those memories to compare and contrast expectations for current reality. That's what my work was about. So a lot of memory mapping, a lot of recreating childhood memories, blueprints, floor plans. So a lot of what you see in the gallery there, anything that's made of cardboard and looks shoddily made, that's my work. I was wondering out loud not too long ago, is the shoddy nature of my work, I'm sorry, I should call it the unskilled, is that the technical word now? Nature of my work, conceptually sound or just indicative of my skill set? I think maybe it's a little bit of both. So anything that's made of cardboard and hot glued together, that's basically kind of my work. And anything that's well constructed, that would be Dawn's work. I'll let Dawn speak about her work, but her work is also about looking for this life, looking for this searching for something. And so when we met, it's going to sound a little bit corny here, especially without Dawn here by my side to back me up. It was kind of like we found what we were looking for in each other, and we started this life together then. And our work turned into not a search for something, but a definition, a clarification of what we had been looking for and had found. And so the work then became recreations of domestic life, kind of more delving into what life together was like versus what life was, the lives we were looking for. Does that make sense? I don't know. Dawn can explain it better than I can. So a lot of our other previous shows were about memories of our lives. So actually there's a piece that's right behind, right there. This piece, this woman here in the blue, I'm sorry, right there, you're the glasses. Yes, that one, that's the one, Jason, right. That piece right there is a, yes. What's the name of that piece? That is called a way station. That's a great example of the work that we made together, collaboration, a memory of a place that was very important to us and continues to be very important to us. So there's this piece here, the piece on the opposite side of the gallery, that's another house, another landscape with the cloud above it, called These Are the Secrets We Choose to Keep. Those pieces are from previous shows, previous collaborations in which we were recreating important places to us, important moments in our life, important memories. And those are largely intact from those previous collaborations. Most of the rest of the work, especially this piece all along the center right here, there's 4 pedestals in a row. That's the piece we're calling Requiem, Until It Disappears. Those are kind of fragments and bits and pieces from other memories. Memories that used to be in a different kind of status, a different stage of completion that were then repurposed. Does that make sense? So taking work that kind of recontextualizing, I guess is the way to speak of. So it becomes about a memory. It becomes about a memory of a memory, but also then about how, where's Dawn at? Donnie Boo, you can help me explain this better? She'll be down here in just a second. So waiting on Grandma here. What we found over the years, and anybody can speak to this, as your lives change, as you get new careers, as you find new things to keep your interest, to occupy your time, as you have children, as your family grows, as you move, your lives change. I'm not going to say priorities change, but your lives get filled with other things. So what we found is that before we met each other and started a family, we had these very intense professional studio practices. We spent a lot of time making work. And as our family grew and as our homes grew and as we started working on things and as the pandemic hit, and we found our lives filled more and more every day by the moment with taking care of the house, domestic needs, renovating the house, taking care of the girls, playing with the girls, decorating the rooms, how life goes, right? And we saw that studio time kind of ticking down, going away, becoming a much less prominent part of our life. No less important, but a much less prominent part of our lives. And so the idea here is that we've got this work that we made in a previous life, so to speak. And how do we recontextualize that? How do we reuse that? How do we make that now something else? How do we reuse that? There's a piece in the back corner by the windows over there, the flat house frame that's hanging with the flowers on it, with all the drawings on it. Those drawings, that's a kind of a great piece that reflects this. Those drawings were all drawings made before Dawn and I met each other, of maps, of memories, of plans. There's a long piece called The Cox Family History, which is my way of trying to remember my family based upon stories and memories. And there's all of these salted papers on the ground too. Those are all things from different artworks that were extremely important, extremely significant at the time, but this is 5-10 years after that work was made. What do we do with that work now? How do we show that? How do we use that? Do we throw it in the garbage? Do we donate it to a museum? Nobody's knocking on our door in that case. How do we reuse it? How do we make that into something else? So it now becomes a whole new thing, and a thing that's about change and about recontext and a new life. And oh, good, you're here. Thank you. I'm drowning here. I can see I'm losing them. Everybody, this is my beautiful wife, Dawn Gettler.
Hi, sorry, it's bath time.
I was just trying to talk about the show.
How'd that go?
I don't know. Look at their faces here. So trying to talk about how we've got old work and we're trying to reuse that.
I wouldn't necessarily say reuse it, but sort of, I've been thinking a lot about like, as a installation artist and now as a fairly new mom, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, what is making work for me now. And a lot of it is taking things that we made in the past where we had copious amounts of time, right? And now we have so little time, and at the end of the day, so little energy to devote towards our work. But we still have all these pieces of things that have sort of been stored improperly or not necessarily without care, but some don't package well and they get damaged. And what does that say about that time in our lives when our lives pretty much were about making work and showing work and exhibiting work? And now that we had this opportunity after what seems like the longest 1.5 years of my entire life, to sort of show like what art making is to us now and how we can take these things that mean a lot to us now and at the time that they were installed and show them in a way that they obviously seem broken or deteriorated, but also still cared for, if that makes sense. So the show is basically then about taking these objects and sort of recontextualizing them in a new space, and then also thinking about like, who sees this work? Kids see this work, and sort of also invoking play, because that's what my life is now, is it's play. And I'm not a big player, but thinking about these things and allowing myself to play with them and reconfigure them. Did you say any of that?
In a much less eloquent way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how it keeps me around. And then there's some things that we made new for the show, like the little playhouse for the kids that come to camp, and sort of to give them that freedom. Like, look, this stuff is precious, but there's also something here that it'd be interesting to see what they build with it, and allow them to play with it and knock it down and build it back up again, and sort of reiterating again what the work is about and what the show's about.
I kind of like that idea of knocking it down and rebuilding it again. I think that's what a lot of the work in the show is, objects that are still very important and objects that we don't want to get rid of, but that have gotten beat up just with over time and several moves, and objects that wouldn't make any sense to install again the same way. Knock it down, rebuild it. So we're not discarding anything, we're not throwing anything out. They're all still very important, but it doesn't make any sense to use them in the same way we used them 5, 6, 10 years ago. Use them again now. Life's different now. The world's different now. What they mean to us is different now than what they meant to us back then too. So rebuild them, reuse them in a new way. Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
And something else that's sort of interesting too, when we talk about like Josh's work is a lot about memory and places that he's lived, and a lot of the models and parts of the models are sort of part of our story together. Like when I met him, the apartment he was living in, and then the next apartment he was living in, and then like parts that we like what we remembered our wedding looking like. So there's like parts of all these memories, right? And we talk about stories and memories, and if you don't continue to tell the story or the memory, it gets forgotten. And so that's kind of why in my mind I can justify keeping all these pieces of former artworks, because otherwise they're forgotten. And I realize like we have pictures, we have videos, but there's something about the physicality of the object.
Right.
And I think the pandemic sort of reiterated that idea of like the physicality of something, like how much we need physical touch, physical interaction, physically going to see the work. Sorry, we're not there to talk to you about it. So things we think about there as far as memory and retelling the story so it's not forgotten. And then it's also interesting too, like when you retell a story, like it can get like embellished or exaggerated, and then the memory becomes the story that was told.
Yeah, I always like that idea of memory, as every time you remember something, you're making a new version of that thing. And the next time you remember it, you're remembering that memory, and then so forth and so on. So the original becomes so diluted, and maybe not diluted, but just change and evolves over time, because every time you remember something, you remember it from this perspective right now, this point in time. So that's again why I think this, I like about the way we, what I like about the work we made, what I like about this way in which the work has manifested itself is that we didn't have a plan for it necessarily. It's like, here's all these fragments of memories. Let's put them together in a way that makes sense today, right now. And when we take the show down, if we use it again, it's going to be totally different, because the world and we are totally different than too.
Mhm.
And so we call it requiem, not to be not to be melancholy or sad. It's just a change, basically a transition from here to there, and kind of this memorial. Memorial is not the right word either, but
For some of it is. I think for some of this work, this is like its last hurrah.
probably I don't think it would survive another
Another trip in
package up
the
a box,
car.
right?
There's certain things that it's like, oh, I can't believe that made it here in one piece. And then when hanging one of the cloud mobiles, it fell and broke one of the trees. And it's like, oh, darn it. And it's like, well, that's again, sort of
The point of it.
reiterating the fact that these things are sort of a memorial, and they're broken, and they're not quite exactly how they were intended to be, but this is how we present them and remember them. And choices that I make now are much different than the choices of my 30-year-old self would have made, for sure. But
John, what can you say about the piece in the front corner of the house frame? I was just starting to kind of talk about
Okay.
that a little bit with the drawings.
so that was made, I started sort of as a piece I was thinking about as like again, like this memorial of this former artistic life that I had before kids. And it sounds pretty sad that they took that from me, and they didn't take it from me. It's a choice that I made. I've never been someone that's good at doing a lot of things at once. So I was not able to be a good artist and a good mom at the same time. And at the end of the day, like for me, being a good mom was more important than making my work. So I made that choice personally. So I was thinking about that house frame covered in these flowers, sort of like how you would take these fake flowers to a gravesite, and it becomes this structure, this sort of place where we could hang these plans, right? We make a lot of schematic drawings about installations we want to make. Josh makes a lot of maps about time in his life, places he's been, like fictional maps, places that don't really exist, and sort of to hang them in this home structure as a way to like show, look, these are like our hopes and our dreams, as corny as that sounds, sort of laid out in front of you. And then on the back piece is a piece of Josh's that he made in graduate school about his family history, which I'm not in that map, like I wasn't there yet in his history. And so I liked that idea that there's this whole past that we all bring to our lives and our situation. And it's important, our past that we bring to the relationships, but also like at a certain point, there's things we don't necessarily have to talk about anymore or want to talk about anymore because they're painful or they don't apply.
Yeah, they're just not relevant.
Yeah, they're not relevant anymore. So I took some of these papers that I'd made for this very large scale installation that, it's a little horrifying to think about, like how I took them and just sort of threw them on the floor, sort of preserving this map of Josh's, encasing it. It's paper that's coated in dyed salt. But the work itself that it came from was, weeks and months of work on this installation. And I was always very particular about how things were packed away. For what reason, I'm not sure. And that's become even more relevant now. Like, what are we saving some of these things for? Like, can they ever be shown again? Do they need to be shown again? But I liked knowing that they were there and that I could install them again if I wanted to. But at the same time, would I even remember how to do it? I left myself, a guide. And so there's something sort of horrific about throwing them on the floor, and also sort of freeing, like that it's okay to sort of let some of these things go. You want to show them a picture of it?
Yeah, this is a picture of the work, the salted papers in that corner. I don't think I can quite do it, but that's okay.
Oh.
Hold on.
Oh, I don't know if it's.
Hi, Erin.
Hey, hey,
Hey.
who's today?
Oh, you look nice.
Oh, yeah, look at two denim shirts.
My work shirt.
It's okay.
You can share now. You're
Okay.
Okay. Oops, I don't know how to do the other.
Share screen. Okay, there we are. So you want to share that screen, I think.
Oh, mouse. Sorry, mouse because I'm mouse pad.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so this was that piece, unrequited, that I made for a gallery in South Carolina. And it was a piece about sort of a silly thing, really. There's this French movie that I just adore called Ma Vie en Rose. It's about a little boy who wants nothing more in life than to be a little girl. When he imagines his perfect life, the cinematography cuts to everything in his world being pink, right? And I love the color pink. I've always loved the color pink, but color in my work and I are not necessarily the bestest of friends. Color kind of scares me a little bit. And I always like the sort of honesty of white in the work. So with this piece, I wanted to, like, what would this look like, this perfect My Life in Pink piece? And I took these papers and installed them to look, I don't know if there's any that show.
Stop sharing.
Oh, you're done. Sorry. To show that they're sort of hung in a way to look like heartbeats. So there was like a specific order about how they were hung and installed, and they were hung at 7 feet 2 inches, which is just physically out of my personal reach. And then there was a note there that if you could reach the papers, you would be allowed to touch them. But when you touch them, it would sprinkle salt on you. So you felt like this immediate guilt, like, oh no, I broke it. So anyway, the papers on the floor are from this piece that was sort of one of the last really large installations that I did before sort of hunkering down to motherhood for a little bit here. So don't slip on them, they're salty. And there was one paper out of like 600 and some that had a little secret. Which, you know what? I can't even tell you what the secret was. So
You don't remember?
I don't. That's the thing. Like, I didn't retell that story, so I don't remember. Are we back to us now?
We're back to us.
Okay.
So straight. Any questions? Are you glad John came down and saved the session here?
He's too kind. It's annoying how nice he is sometimes.
So thank you for coming. I hope you like the work. Feel free to build a castle in the blocks and
Spin the clouds. They're
Spin the
fun to watch
clouds.
spin.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you guys so much for doing this. And I know it's kind of a weird thing, but hope we appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a nice
yeah, it was great.
reminder of what it's like to spend time alone with my husband and work on something that isn't house or kid related.
Right.
It's
always nice to spend time with me.
And it's always good too, working with him. I don't know, there's something about collaboration and art making. Collaboration in life is like whatever, we get through the day. But collaboration and art making is, I don't know, there's something sort of like you succeed together and you fail together. And it's nice knowing that there's someone else there with you to talk about these sort of silly things or unrealistic
Absolutely.
things that you want to make, or
just to talk through thoughts and ideas. It's hard to make work when you don't know how to talk about it or can't talk about it, or you're just thinking about it all the time. So talking about it out loud really helps.
there was 2 of Josh on my screen, so I had to fix that.
Go back to that. I like it.
I like 2 Joshes on the screen. Well, thank you. I
Thank you.
hope you guys have a good rest of the night. and
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go save my mother from my angel trolls. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jason, how are you doing, buddy?
Hi. I was hoping you'd make it.
Stand in the back.
I still don't know how you have as much work as you produce. I am just in awe of
No kidding.
your,
No kidding.
and it's not just about production, like it's gorgeous work too. I'm just, do you sleep? You don't. Surely you don't.
Yes,
Yeah, there's an age there.
right. I mean, high school to college age kids is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
So what you guys have been talking about tonight, I'm like, yep.
Right. Yeah.
We were reminiscing about your show at the Art Guild, and I was like, how many trips did he take? Because we did that drive, and it's like you had a trailer, right? Did you get a trailer?
Yes.
Because that was my first experience with your work. And I was like, how do you get all this up here? Like, how do you get this in here? And then it was like, how did he make all this stuff? And now I'm really like, how does he make all this stuff?
It's been fun to see your guys' stuff in person because a lot of these I've just seen online.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
thanks.
good,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you got to see it. I'm sorry you get like the deteriorated version of it all, but it's
No, I understand all of that as well. Like stuff away. So
there's something really nice about the piles that I'm enjoying, the piles of things. And I think for me, like if I can make a pile of something, I accomplish something, whether it be with cleaning up the kitchen, if I can get the dishes in a pile, if I can get the clothes in a pile, and if they're like in like coordinated piles, like his clothes, girls' clothes, my clothes, I really feel like I've accomplished something. So piling up our work was actually kind of, I don't know, I liked it. There's something about these piles that
Yeah,
I
it's
really
kinda neat. I
enjoy.
like it too.
Probably sound like a lunatic, but it seems purposeful, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Piles with purpose.
well, perfect.
Perfect piles with purpose. That's the next name of our show.
PPP?
PPP. Get your PPE. PPE. Too soon.
Too soon.
Okay.
We got through all that.
All right. Well, you guys have a wild night.
Bye,
I'm going to go
everybody.
save my mom.
Thank you. Thanks,
Sorry
Ryan.
I was late. I hate to be late.